episode 2 of the Breaking News Bear podcast. Today, I'm your host, Ruiz, joined by Evan Davis and Mario Russo. Boys, welcome back.
It's been great, man. It's great. Love it.
I mean, last episode was great. I had a lot of fun recording it, and I'm sure we all did. So I can't wait to get started for episode 2, where we are going to be starting our division predictions with the American League East. A little bit of a look inside into the season to see what you guys can expect. Obviously, it might be a little premature because free agency hasn't happened yet, but the earlier we can get on it, the better. So I'm excited, guys. Before, I don't know if we want to touch on the MLB lockout, guys, if anybody has anything to say about that. I know they're finally meeting again, which is a good thing, but the discussions haven't been, super in depth to what I can tell.
Yeah, so it seems like based on the tweets that I was reading is that guys want to get to free agency earlier, and the MLB Players Association is saying no, that's not going to happen. And but it seems like they're now breaching some sort of agreement that allows for it, but it seems like it's a little discombobulated still.
Yeah, so I think it was the players who wanted 6 years before free agency, and right now I believe it's 7. So I mean, I think the players have said that they're willing to forego that in order of revenue sharing and other stuff that they're interested in. But I guess we'll see how these discussions go. They're meeting today, depending on when you're watching the video. So hopefully we get some more information in the days to come.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, Mario, I don't know if you have anything to add there, or
I just want to watch baseball, man. I don't care how it goes. I don't care how you get it done. Get it done, and let's start watching baseball. Spring training, I understand if it maybe gets cut short, but I can't have the season cut short. I need baseball in my life.
Yes, sir. For sure. I think everybody's in that boat. We just want baseball. It doesn't matter how it looks or what's going on behind the scenes. I just want to see some guys on the field playing ball.
100%.
Yeah. Alrighty, so we are going to get into our division predictions. We've got a few categories that I'll just run down here before we start, just so it's the same for all 5 teams. So we'll just run through them and then we'll see how that goes. So we've got, first thing we're looking at is off-season grade. We're looking at their record or their predicted record. We're looking at what their ceiling is. We are going to try to predict who their team MVP and Cy Youngs are going to be. We're going to talk about positioning, whether they should buy, sell, or stay, continue on their current path. And then we're going to talk about a make or break player, which is just a really interesting player who could either have a breakout year or could potentially be off the team with a bad season. So let's get started with the Baltimore Orioles. I'll pass it off to Evan to give us his reactions first. Do we want to go off season? Do we want to go category by category? I think that would
just
probably
go
be smart.
full.
Or do you want to go start?
Category by category?
I think it might be smart to go category.
Just keep it organized.
Just to keep it all organized. All right. So
okay, for sure.
Off-season grade for the Baltimore Orioles. Let's hear what you have to say, Evan.
I mean, I gave them a D just because nothing's really happened. I mean, they got John Means, the pitcher from the Angels, and he's nothing really special. I just didn't. Are we then circling for Mario for the offseason grade? I'm a little confused.
I'll pass it off to Mario then, and then we'll come back to the next category.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not as harsh, but I'm still pretty realistic. It's a C-, very close to a D. It's they haven't done anything. Like John Means is a great ad for their team, but he's not an extraordinary player, like Evan said. Not much to dissect with them. It's just still going to be a same season for the Baltimore Orioles. I'm sure I'm going to get into it in a little bit, but no, nothing special yet.
Yeah, I've also got them at a C. I mean, in my notes, I have you did nothing notable. So
no, I mean, it's hard for them to do anything notable.
It is.
Yeah, it's a strange position, especially when you're not going after younger free agents as well, which there are other teams who have done, but Baltimore just really hasn't been active at all. So I don't really know. Maybe they're waiting for the draft or something, but I guess we'll see. Record prediction, I have them coming in at 55 and 107, which is around where they've been hovering for most of the last couple previous seasons. I don't know, Evan, you want to give us your record prediction?
Yeah, I said 57 and 105. I just don't really.
Generous. That's generous.
We're all in the same boat.
Yeah, I'm in the exact same boat as well. Rounding, I don't have an exact record, but it's going to be probably ballparked around the 50 win mark and over 100 losses for sure. So nothing crazy.
That seems to be the trend with the Orioles as of late. For their ceiling, I have them potentially breaking the 60 win threshold, 62 and 101. So, not exactly that should be 62 and 100. Not exactly the greatest season, but, better than what they've done lately. I think they've got a couple pieces that might be able to pull them to 60 wins.
Mm-hmm. And I have a very similar one as well around that. I don't have exact records for any of these teams, but again, around that sort of area. And I mean, that's a pretty decent record if you're looking at the Baltimore Orioles,
Yeah.
what they're expected. That's I wouldn't be too upset if I was the Baltimore Orioles and finished with that record. But again, not a lot of pieces to move, not a lot of pieces to go get, and they're just in a really weird position, like you said, Mateo. And I know we're not going to look at their prospect pool because I don't think we have really the time or the necessities to do it. But if you really go and look like sort of in close about their prospects, they got a lot of good guys coming up. So it's not like the future's not bright at all for Baltimore. They got a couple years to go before they maybe hit the better records that we'll probably be projecting in the years to come.
Yeah, they've also got to be willing to spend in the draft, which
100%.
is something we haven't seen lately. They've been taking underslot players with really high picks. So I think that's something that needs to get ironed out as well. Like you need to figure out the finances and be able to dedicate it to your drafted players. Anyway, Evan, let's hear your ceiling for the Baltimore Orioles.
I said 60 and 102.
Yeah.
It's so pathetic to have a ceiling like that, but that's just probably as high as I'll go.
Yeah, there's not much to look forward to on that team. Team MVP, this probably won't come as a surprise to a lot of people. I have Cedric Mullins, who probably, definitely was their team MVP last year. He was for a while in conversation for potentially American League MVP with the kind of numbers he put up. And yeah, Cedric Mullins is a guy who is just, breaking out of his shell. He's converted to be a full-time lefty bat, if I'm not mistaken. And that really allowed him to break out this season, focusing on one side of the plate. And, he's a guy that, is a rare bright spot in this Baltimore Orioles team. They've got a few talented players in that outfield, but Cedric Mullins is far and away the best player on this squad. Evan, it's your prediction?
A unanimous MVP.
I think it's going to go.
Yeah, we've all got him there.
He's a terrific talent.
I
can't think of any other guy on the Baltimore Orioles that's going to stand on his head, unlike Cedric Mullins. He had a terrific year last year. Like, it was ridiculous at times what he was doing.
Exactly.
I think he had an on-base streak was, if I'm not mistaken, it's something around that end. Very good player, and glad the Baltimore Orioles at least have one.
Yeah, you're tempted to put a guy like Anthony Santander or like Trey Mancini or something like that, but nobody's going to get to that level of if Mullins repeats this level of like success, there's nobody that's going to even come close to touching what he does on this team. Mm-hmm. So yeah, as far as Cy Young goes, I have a guy who had a very great season for the Baltimore Orioles, before a few injuries and before a little off the field stuff happened. But John Means is my pick for Team Cy Young. He was, again, a rare guy in that rotation that provided a little solidity. Like, you knew going out every 5 days with him that he was going to give you a quality start. And that's not something you could say about anybody else in that rotation. So yeah, another boring pick, but it's John Means.
Yeah, I said the same thing. There's all other 4 pitchers are horrible. So
yeah,
congrats.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I'm looking at the lineup right now. Their starters up and coming for this season. Nothing really.
No. I mean, there's a chance
chance
that a rookie comes out of nowhere and does something, but as of now, it's John Means until the season gets started, at least.
Baltimore is a pretty easy one to go through, eh?
A little bit.
Yeah.
I feel like this make or break. I feel like this make or break player might be a little different between some of us, but I actually have Jorge Mateo. He's a guy, very young guy with a lot of upside that's, had a chance to bounce around a couple of different organizations. He's been with Oakland, he's been with San Diego, and now he's in Baltimore, where he's going to get a chance to start because his competition, if I'm not mistaken, is like Richie Martins or something. So he'll be all right at shortstop. The question is he finally going to be able to put it together at the major league level, which is something we haven't really seen from Jorge Mateo yet. So I'm really looking forward to, on his third team, he's gotten a few chances now. I'm really looking forward to see now with, guaranteed playing time, how he can do in a lineup every day in an RBI spot. Let's go to Evan to see who your make or break player is.
I actually have Cedric Mullins. And the reason why I have him is because I think in order for him to really gain the respect in the MLB, he needs to do it consistently. And he was great last year at the Orioles, the only bright spot on that team. And I just think it's a make or break is to determine what his value is as a player.
Solid. Yeah, no, I agree with that too. It's weird because you don't think of a guy that's a bona fide all-star, or if he has a repeat season like that, he's a bona fide all-star, right? But that is definitely a make or break kind of situation. Yeah.
I got this one might come a little bit mysterious, but Anthony Santander. I don't know. I just need to see. I want to see if he can get a bit more consistency this year. I mean, you're looking at his batting averages over he's only played 5 seasons, 267, 198, 261, 261, 241, 248. I'd like to see him get back at the 260 to maybe 280 batting average around there. If he hits 300, I think that's a tremendous year for him on a Baltimore Orioles team like this. But I want to see a little bit more consistency out of him. I think it's going to be a make or break year. I wouldn't be surprised if he does move at the end of the year, if he doesn't produce it the way what I'm sort of projecting. But yeah, he's my make or break player for the Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah, that's really interesting. He's a guy that I believe has had one season in the 800 OPS. If you've got the stats up, I don't know, but I believe it was one season in the 800 OPS. And then ever since then, he's been around like the 750, sort of hovering to get back up there. 800 is a benchmark for the kind of success that the Baltimore Orioles are expecting to see from Anthony Santander. So to see him get back up to that level would seriously be a huge help for that team. Definitely. As far as positioning goes, we have it set up so it's buy, sell, or stay, which is stay is obviously continue on the current path that you're going. I have the Baltimore Orioles considering selling some of their pieces. They have a lot of a few veterans on controllable and expiring deals. Means and Santander, I believe, are both 28 years old, and they both have about 2 years of arbitration left, which would be some serious value if they could, swing a trade with some contending teams that either need pitching or a solid outfield bat like Santander, who's going to hover around that 800 OPS range. Evan, what do you think the Orioles should do this season?
I said sell, but don't oversell. Like, you still want to keep your core guys, but like there are a bunch of guys that you can definitely just kick rocks.
Who would be the core guys on Baltimore in your opinion? I think Mullins is just an unanimous core piece, but who else would you throw into the sort of top four players that they're going to roll with? Or maybe you're still developing your core. Who knows? I'm really interested to see what position they take.
I like a guy like Austin Hayes. I think, he's an outfielder that brings a lot of defensive potential. And, we saw last year they put him in, I believe he was in the 2-hole for a while and he was producing pretty well over there. I need to see it over, a larger sample size, a longer season, but I think he's shown last year that he's a player that could, be a guy that you could consider to build around, especially exceptional defense in a corner outfield spot with Mullins in center.
Would you consider Trey Mancini a bit of a core piece? I don't know. He's at the age 29 season, but he's been there a while. Great story with him, by the way. You have to give him credit with. I think he was battling with. I believe it's cancer. Came back, put up a tremendous season last year. I think he batted 255, not there, but the 21 home runs, 71 RBIs. It's just a terrific story for him. But do you think he'd be part of the core at all?
Yeah, I mean, as far as his future goes with the Orioles, I don't know what that looks like, but he's going to stick around in the MLB. He'll be, either DHing or playing first base for some team, right? As far as the Orioles with the timelines, I don't really know if that matches up. Like, I don't really see them being able to competitively build around a guy who's 29 right now and will probably be in his mid 30s by the time they're competitive with the way this Orioles team is moving. So I don't know. That's just my take on it, Evan. I don't know if you're thinking something different.
Yeah, I'm thinking Ryan Mountcastle, 24 years old, hit 33 home runs last year. I mean, maybe even him as a make or break year, kind of just assessing his value, because I do think the Orioles, there's no point in them keeping these pieces. I feel like they could get a lot in return for them, like more players in return for a guy like Ryan Mountcastle. I think his value could be high, just depending on how he heads into next year. But I mean, at the age of 24, he could also just be a piece that the Orioles are like, let's keep him and also build around him as well.
And I think that's the way they're going to go. I think they're going to roll with Mountcastle, Mullins, maybe Santander, but again, you can fetch very good value with Santander. So use him as a piece to get a different core guy. So no, it's going to be interesting to see. And obviously offseason still has to make its way around the league. The league has to resume in order for that to happen. So no, I think once we see the moves that this team is going to make, we're going to say, who are their core pieces, who's not, who's going to be staying for the long run, who's not. And it's going to be tough sledding for the Baltimore this year, but I got them selling, and you're going to see what's going to happen in the next couple of months, hopefully, maybe throughout the entire year. So hopefully we can see what the Baltimore Orioles are going to do in the upcoming seasons.
Yeah, no doubt. It'll be interesting to watch. Moving on to the Boston Red Sox, our second team of the day right now. Let's go through the off-season grades for them right now. They've made moves for Jackie Bradley Jr., James Paxton, Rich Hill, but I have them right now sitting at around a C. They've obviously superficially attempted to address the pitching issues with Paxton and Hill, but ultimately their success relies on whether or not they can retain their free agents and, Schwarber and, bring their guys back and go after, much needed players. Like I think in the last episode, I had them going after Anthony Rizzo, which I think would be a pretty good addition for them too. So I have them at a C with, obviously a lot of potential to grow if they address some of their pitching issues and are able to retain their free agents. Mario, let's hear what you have to say first.
I mean, I'm maybe just a bit higher. You got him at C. I got him at maybe C plus,
Yeah.
borderline B, just because I do like what they've been bringing in. It's a matter of if you can retain those guys, like you mentioned. I think we're in the same boat with that. You
Yeah.
got to keep Schwarber. I think is Jackie Bradley Jr. not up for contract?
Jackie Bradley Jr. they just traded for actually.
Traded for. Okay.
So yeah, he's
Yeah.
on the squad. Yeah.
Mhm. So no, I think they just got to keep some free agents, and yeah, it's about it. I think there's not much to say, not much to go in depth about it since the offseason's been so short.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. Evan, what are you thinking?
I said C. I mean,
C as well, yeah.
nothing great. I still think they need a bullpen. Like, I think they need to develop a bullpen. I'm not really a fan of what they have. And we saw, like, in the postseason, they were getting killed by the bullpen. They were
Mhm.
giving up a lot of runs, giving up some games, especially against Tampa Bay. They got a few away. So I just think they need to kind of still rebuild their squad.
Yeah, we'll definitely get a chance to talk about that bullpen after. We've got some interesting players that are going to come up in this discussion that are, going to have an obvious impact on that team and their pitching staff. So for record, I have them coming in at 87 and 75, which is a little bit of a step backwards from last year. But basically, my reasoning for this is that, if you look at run differential, if you look at those top teams that were, in the mix there, with the exception of Seattle, they had a pretty low run differential in comparison. And, that's obviously, it's not speaking to the fact that the Red Sox have a poor offense because they have one of the best offensive cores in the league with guys like Devers and Bogarts. But it comes down to the fact that, they got some really good performances out of some pitchers who really shouldn't have been able to give them those performances. And especially in the absence of Chris Sale. And I just don't know if that's going to be sustainable next year. I have them at 87 and 75, obviously fighting for a playoff spot, but we'll see how that shakes out by the end of the year. Evan, where do you have the Red Sox landing next year?
I have them as of right now. I have them at 83 and 79. I don't know. Like, they're a weird team because it looks like they would always have so much potential just being the Red Sox and they're such like a historic franchise. But I don't know, man. It just felt like a little Cinderella-esque, but
Yeah.
it just depends on who they retain.
Mario, what are you thinking?
I throw them in the same boat as the Giants from last year. You weren't
Mhm.
expecting to see a lot, and they absolutely came out to play. I remember those first opening months for the Red Sox. They kind of shocked the AL East, took it by storm, really. And I don't expect them to be as competitive. I think an obvious step back is needed because I didn't think they were going to do anything last year. And if they do something this year, I will be extremely convinced. I would really look back at this video and wish I deleted it because no, it's always the same thing with the Red Sox. I don't think they're going to do well. Nobody thinks they're going to do well, and they just pull one out of left field. So no, I think they're going to take definitely a step back. And obviously, it might even come down to who they're keeping in their organization.
Yeah.
From the offseason, that still has a lot to tell, which is really a big reason why this show's so hard to put together. So there's so many unknowns,
Right.
But we're going to try our best. And I hope the Red Sox do try their best to keep these guys, and maybe they can make their season a little bit more promising than what we're going to project. Because I think we're all going to be saying step back is probably what we're going to be seeing from the B Sox here.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think the Red Sox as an organization, especially, are pretty volatile. Like, they're a team that can jump from like first in the division to fourth in the division to, all around just on a year's whim. And, they've obviously lost a few big names or traded away some names to clear salary, notably Mookie Betts, obviously, which has had an impact on that. But they're a team that has, jumped around the standings quite a lot in the last few years, despite their, recent success. As far as the ceiling goes, I have them at 95 wins. I think, if everything goes right for this team and, they get the maximum amount out of every one of their players, they've got a lot of talent on this team and they could be a 95 win team and, vie for a division win in a weaker year for the AL East potentially. Mario, what are you thinking?
Again, I don't got any exact records, but around that record as well. It's just they're so capable. Like, there's one team, if there's not one team that is capable of doing great things at random times, it's the Boston Red Sox. They can just explode in an instant. They got the piece to do so. They got a lot of chemistry in that lineup, and the meat and potatoes, the middle of that lineup, is also pretty vicious. I'm looking at the projected one right now. Devers, Bogarts, JD Martinez, and Alex Verdugo, who had a terrific season last year, breakout player last season as well. So, and even Bobby Delback, he's coming back. He's coming up there. He's getting a little bit better as he goes on. He's a young player. They just got a lot of pieces that are more than capable of pulling their weight when they want to. So it's just up to if they want to do it and if it's going to happen, because this team's not bad. We're not calling the Boston Red Sox back. I know the Red Sox fan base is pretty large around these parts, so we're not ripping on you guys. It's just if you guys can get these guys, if you guys can get these guys going, the engine is far from has dust on it. It is able to run.
For sure. Evan, where's your head at with the Red Sox?
I put their record as. Oh wait, I'm sorry. I put
Their
the.
ceiling, yes.
My bad. Their ceiling as a 90 and 72.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, that's you don't think that's a little bit low for the Red Sox with all the talent on that roster?
I don't know, man. It's just because I just think the AL East is just going to be so competitive, and
Fair.
I think that the Red Sox out of the top. Okay, so there's 5 teams. Obviously, I think they're the fourth best team in that
Mm,
division right now, and so
okay.
that's why I think 90 and 72 is my realistic.
And I do agree with him as well. I think we're going to bring up with standings in a little bit when we're done previewing all
Yeah,
these teams. But like the AL East is very competitive, and it's not a shot against the Red Sox again. It's just that there's other teams in the same situation, maybe even a little bit better. It's about who's going to be that much more better that's going to
that's
separate
fair.
these teams from the rest. So
Yeah.
no, I'm absolutely with Evan there, but still nothing, not a knock against the Red Sox. Just there's some better teams in this league, or sorry, in this division that I think we're going to unpack in a little bit as well.
And we know how tight this division was
Mhm.
last year. So a few games can make a difference. Like the
Yeah.
difference between 90 and 92 wins could be a playoff spot or not, right?
Yep.
So
Mhm.
moving on to the New York Yankees. I have them at a B off-season grade right now. They've let go of, a few different players that, needed to go, notably Odor, obviously from last year, who I have my own feelings about, but we're going to put those aside as a Jays fan. And, letting go of Clint Frazier too, you would have liked to trade him a few years ago when he actually had value, but, it was an overcrowded outfield. And, if you were going to keep giving chances to Clint Frazier, you were going to take at bats away from your guys like your Hickses and your Judges and your Stantons and your Gardners and all that stuff. So they've let go of a lot of players that they needed to let go of, which I think there are a few more that they could get rid of as well that would free up some space. But ultimately, they need to add a premier top level infielder to win games this year. So that's why I'm hesitant to give them anything higher than a B. Evan, where are you standing with the New York Yankees this offseason?
I said B at first, but now I'm thinking like let go of a few guys. They haven't gotten anyone in yet. I'll keep it at a B for now, but
Yeah.
look, I think they definitely need to they need to get like maybe another starting pitcher, not like a high quality starting pitcher, but definitely a 4 or 5. Just with Severino, he came back from, I believe it was Tommy John
Yep.
that he had, and then also just with Tanaka leaving unexpectedly, I just think they definitely need to get just like a 4 or 5.
Yeah, you got to shore that rotation up for sure. Mario, where are you at with the Yankees right now?
So you got him at a B. I got him
Mhm.
maybe B plus. It's around there.
Okay.
The only
Yeah.
reason why I say this is because they did what they had to do. I really like that the fact that they got rid of Clint Frazier. He's a terrific talent being wasted in New York. At least you can get
Yeah.
something back for him. Again, you're absolutely right. They need an infielder. I think that's the one thing that we're going to see them pursue pretty hard on. I think the Carlos Correa, as we talked about last week, still on the table, very well on the table. And Yankees fans will definitely get back down to earth when he comes down here in the Bronx if he plays. But no, you need the middle infielder. What they have right now is not going to cut it. You got to get that. And pitching staff wise, they're going to be okay, but it wouldn't hurt, like Evan said, to add that fifth starter or something like that. Their bullpen's terrific. They're probably the closest team, at least in this division, where I'm going to say B plus, but they're really close to getting an
Yeah.
A if they make a couple changes. So
No.
we're gonna have to wait and see. And this offseason is gonna be big. It's gonna determine where this Yankees team ranks, I think, in this AL East.
Yeah, no, adding the infielder really pushes them up to like an AA plus
Mhm.
kind of range. Like that's the successful offseason that you wanted to see. As far as record goes, I have them at 93 and 69. I think that's a pretty fair estimate for the Yankees. I mean, a lot went wrong last year with just poor offensive performances and poor pitching performances and unfortunate losses in Severino and all that, right? So I think a lot went wrong last year. I think you can look for this team to have about a 93 win season and make some noise in the AL East, which is again, as we said, going to be super tight. Mario, as far as record predictions go, where do you have the Yankees around?
Again, same there. I was looking at, and we're going to get into it when we dissect
Mhm.
the Jays, everyone's favorite team down here. But no, it's going to be very similar. I think they're going to be neck and neck with the Bluebirds,
Yeah.
like they always are. It's always seems to follow that path, that storyline, unfortunately. But no, they're going to be a great team this year. And I don't know. There's one thing that I need them to clean up, and this is, I think, if we're gonna go with make or breaks, is gonna make or break of their season. Their defense. Their defense was ridiculously bad last year, and you can credit that to the shortstop position. They're gonna need an infielder. If they bring in an infielder, I'm assuming that number is gonna come down. But
Yeah.
no, you want to clean up the defense. It's a very undermined stat. Not a lot of people look into it. It's just, hey, you made a defensive error, just pick it back up. These things can cost you games, and in many ways, it did for the New York Yankees last year. Hopefully, it doesn't do it this year if they clean it up.
Yeah, not having that defensive anchor at shortstop is really going to affect your defense when you're playing guys like Gio Urshela, DJ LeMahieu, even Gleyber Torres. Really, what are you getting out of him as a shortstop defensively, right? Evan, as far as record goes, what do you have the Yankees finishing at?
Yeah, I had the Yankees record at 95-67. I think just a few more wins than what you originally had. I'm going in with the expectation that Carlos Correa will sign with the Yankees. Just I don't see any other team affording to pay him whatever he wants. And I mean, they already gave Garrett Cole $300 million. So what's one more ridiculous contract? I just that's the one position that's kind of like the black hole where everything just goes horribly wrong.
Yeah, no doubt. That'll catapult them again to my ceiling. I have them at is 97 wins, right? So if they make the appropriate moves and everything goes right on offense, and maybe they add a pitcher like Evan said, then I think they can be a 97 win team. Maybe vying for an about 100 win season if everything goes absolutely right. I mean, I would assume that a lot of us are in agreement there, but let's hear some of your opinions as well, just to see if we're on the same page.
I do think they can hit the 100 wins, but you're going to need guys to not only just step up, but a lot of pieces to fall together. I think they're going to have to still go get that fifth starter if they want to hit the 100, just to have that insurance on that end. I think I'm going to dissect it. I'm not going to leave it there. I'm going to say it now. Make or break player if we're going to that, or if it's going to make a big difference. Gary Sanchez, man, that guy, he has to pick it up. There's catchers in the Yankees organization knocking at their door. His job is wanted, and his job is very well able to get overtaken. I think is it Higashioka, if I'm not mistaken.
Kyle Higashioka,
on the Yankees. He's a terrific defensive talent on the back end, and no, I think Gary Sanchez. I'm looking at the line. I'm getting mixed up with all the names, but Gary Sanchez. He's on thin ice this year. I think this is going to be probably what puts him over the hump or what buries him. So eyes out for him. And I think he's going to have to determine if he has a terrific offensive season like he did a couple years ago, you can easily see this team pushing for a ceiling, because he is in many ways or not the heart and soul of this team. And when it runs through him, this team is lethal.
Yeah, I mean, it's no secret that he's had a lot of defensive, miscues in the last couple of seasons. He was also my make or break player. I think, you're at the point where Garrett Cole, the ace of your team, refuses to let you catch his games. Like Kyle Higashioka is Garrett Cole's like full-time, personal catcher, just because Gary Sanchez can't call a game and can't play defense. And, part of that is on the Yankees coaching staff for letting him catch on a knee and all that. You've heard the story a million times on every single broadcast. Anytime any team has ever played the Yankees, it seems to drive everybody crazy. But yeah, it's a problem, and they need to do something about it. Hopefully, through this off season and through spring training, you'll have some time to iron it out. But if the ace of your team can't trust you to catch their games, and you're going to, hit 200, then you don't really provide a lot of value to a team that has aspirations to win the World Series. Evan, now that we're on make or break player, where are you thinking? Like, is this the season for Gary Sanchez, or do you have another player in mind?
I said Joey Gallo, because I think he was very underwhelming when the Yankees acquired him from Texas. He had 13 home runs in 58 games, which, I mean, not what you were really expecting, but also only 22 RBIs. And it seems like that's the theme for the Yankees. It's like, if you can't hit home runs, you have zero chance at getting runs batted in. And I think that's why Carlos Correa is on the top of their list, because although he can mash 30 home runs in a season, he could provide over 100 RBIs as well. So, I think Joey Gallo really needs to step it up. And if he can be consistent, and he's playing in a ballpark too where that right field wall is so low, so it's so favorable for him to easily hit 35, 40 home runs. I think he really needs to pick it up.
Gallo, another one of those highly coveted lefty bats on the Yankees lineup that there just simply aren't enough of them, right? So, if the Yankees are going to have a good year and they're going to throw some teams off, then he's going to have to be a solid lefty bat in the middle of that order for sure.
And
Yeah.
the Bronx Bombers are gonna have to drop some bombs. Like
Yeah,
it's just in there. It's not even like a joke. It's the home run ball that makes or breaks their games, their seasons, their weeks, their series, is whatever you want to put it. It's the home run thing that's gonna determine how this team does. If you want to go back to the ceiling, that home run stuff. How many are they knocking out of the ballpark at Yankee Stadium? Very favorable. If I'm not mistaken, it's a favorable hitting ballpark.
It is
correct?
a very favorable hitting ballpark.
Yes. So if you can get those guys knocking out of the park like they've done, it's been proven before. This team is more than capable of putting up 100-win seasons. I know we hate to say it because we're Jays fans, and the Jays faithful down here absolutely hate the Yankees fan base, and the Yankees fan base is not loved too much within the league. But no, if this team can get stuff going, like Gary Sanchez, like getting a lefty bat maybe in off season, bringing in another starter, bringing in an infielder, like they can just move so many pieces together. Like I've mentioned off the top, if pieces fall in place, this team is scary and contend. I would even say I got him for the third spot right now, ranked, battling with the Jays. The Jays getting the wild card with that second. But if this team gets everything right, they can contend maybe for number one. It's not that far. It's not that far off. It's just like I mentioned, the AL East is so marginal, marginal.
And the Yankees are a much better team than they're given credit for, obviously, just because it's, a trend to hate on the Yankees, which, it's kind of how it goes. As far as MVP, as far as MVP and Cy Young goes, no surprises for me. I've got Aaron Judge and Garrett Cole. I mean, those seem like kind of the obvious picks for this. I know it might be a little boring, but I don't know anybody that's going to, do you any better. But if anybody else has anything different.
I said Carlos Correa and Garrett Cole.
Alrighty.
I don't know. Like, I just it's the only place he can really go to where a team's going to give him his bread. So that's why I'm saying Carlos Correa.
It's tough to imagine the 2022 Yankees without that shortstop, whether it's Correa, whether it's Story. But yeah, obviously that player is going to have a serious impact on this team's offense.
So that's why I said MVP for him.
No doubt.
Before we start moving on, I'm unanimous with your votes as well. MVP, Aaron Judge, Cy Young, Garrett Cole. It's not really a question or up for debate, really, unless you're giving up the predictables like Evan this year. But one can dream, Evan. One can dream. But I want to ask you, Mateo, Evan, what are your thoughts on Giancarlo Stanton? Like, what are you thinking of seeing out of him? I know he's not made or crafted for his defensive play. I think he's just the main DH down in New York. He can hit bombs. It's a matter of when he's going to hit them. And it's like a slowly roaring engine, and then he's going off, and then he's up and away, and then he's just mashing everything out of the ballpark. So what do you make of him, and what do you expect to see from him in the season?
Just a DH role.
Obviously.
Nothing special in my opinion. Like, he probably will get between maybe 25, 30 home runs and somewhere north of 85 to 90 RBIs.
He's got to stay healthy too.
I think exactly. The key with Stanton is definitely that health. I mean, you saw especially him and Judge, last year and a few years ago have had serious injuries just because the way they're built like, they're athletes, obviously, but they're built and they're toned. And that isn't necessarily the most sustainable, shape to be in over a 162 game season. Obviously, I'm not taking away from them. They're in amazing shape. Like, one could only dream, but it's not the most sustainable shape for, repetitive muscle strain. And, over the course of a long season, you're going to see a lot of injuries. So I think the key with Stanton is, we've seen what happens when he can stay healthy. We've seen, even in a Yankees uniform, we've seen, how he can torch some teams when he's feeling himself, right? What he's done against the Boston Red Sox at the end of last season, right? So if that's the Stanton you're going to get, you're going to be very happy if you're a Yankees fan, but all that depends on him being able to stay on the field and that DH spot being free enough for them to give him regular rest. So,
and let's not forget that his biceps bigger than all our heads combined. This guy is a freak of nature.
I know. I'm talking about his physique, and I'm like, one could only hope to be in that kind of shape. But,
for sure.
Herculean for sure. But yeah. As far as buy, sell, stay goes, I think obviously the Yankees have to spend, you got to spend New York money to build a New York team. And, you got to consider parting ways with some prospects if you see now as your window to make a push. So, I think we can pretty much all agree on that before moving on to the Tampa Bay Rays, which is probably, it's always the most interesting team in this division, man. You never know how they're going to do it, but they always seem to come through. I mean, I have them at a B+ right now.
Same.
Probably around, an A- B+ kind of range. No notable losses. They've added Corey Kluber, which is going to be a great add if he pitches for them. And they've been very active in the international free agent signing market, which is, something that Tampa Bay has been really good at, picking players out who, don't necessarily have all the hype behind them, didn't necessarily go through the traditional routes. And they've signed, I think, 20 something international free agents this year, which I believe leads the league. So, they're making moves for players that a lot of teams aren't really interested in. And that is the Tampa Bay way. So they're doing their offense
Yeah.
their own way. So I give them a B plus, A minus kind of range. Evan, where do you have the Rays?
Yeah, I had them at a B plus as well. I think like the one thing that I did say that they need to get is shortstop depth. I mean, obviously they have Wander Franco, but he's not going to be there for 162 games. At least I hope he's not like a knock on him, but he can't play 162 games. That's just ridiculous. And he could probably play at least 120, but the guy needs a day off from time to time. I think definitely acquiring a mid-level shortstop is something that should definitely be on their radar because right now they don't have a lot of confident. Like besides Franco, I don't see anybody else who I would put at shortstop with confidence.
I think their backup right now is Taylor Wall, who, he's going to play some decent defense, but he's not going to, shock
Okay,
you with
so
the bat
yeah,
or
you
anything.
made
Yeah.
my point clear.
So, yeah, exactly.
That last name's sick for a shortstop, though. Taylor
It is
Wall.
though,
Come
right?
on.
The
Yeah,
Wall.
Only
but-
it would only be better if he was a catcher.
Yeah,
It
but
would only
definitely
yeah.
definitely just needs depth at that position.
Yeah, Mario, what are you thinking for the Rays offense so far? How would you grade it?
If the Rays weren't, I love the Rays. I got a very big soft spot for them just because if they weren't in Tampa, they'd be one of my favorite teams. Like these guys they just pull one out of left field all the time. Their scouting is probably the best. I think I've already said enough on the last episode about the Rays and what they need to bring in and their scouting position on everything, but they're probably the best scouting team in sport with what they're bringing in. Like they brought in so many young talents that have grown with the system, or young talents that have established themselves, and then they trade them off for better assets. It's just I just love what the Rays do with their organization. I got them at a B plus, very close to an A, just because I just want to see them bring. And this is going to go back to what I said in our last show. Yandy Diaz shouldn't be your starting third baseman with the production he's been doing over his last couple of seasons with the Rays. I think you can go out and get one. The third base market is pretty big this offseason. A guy like Chris Bryant never hurt nobody, and he certainly wouldn't hurt Tampa Bay Rays. So if you can go out and get him, this team is just very close to being unstoppable. I love their lineup. I love their pitching rotation. They got Patino, I believe, in the position as well. I think he's their fifth starter. I'm interested to see what he does. I know he's a young guy and he's a flamethrower as well. So interesting to see what he does. So much promise with this Tampa Bay Rays team. They can I think they're going to run the table with the AL East.
That young rotation too is a serious bright spot for this team. Tampa Bay brings them up well, and Kevin Cash manages them well when they're in the majors. So I've got a lot of good things to say about that rotation for sure. As far as record goes, I have them around where they've been the last couple of years, 102 and 60. Probably meeting or breaking that 100 win threshold. I don't think would be a surprise to see from the Rays, even despite how competitive this division is. What are your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I had them with the record at 103 and 59.
Yep.
So just like a little bit better I'll just go to the C 05 and 57. Like I think they're definitely going to hit the 100 win mark. It's just what they do. It's how the Rays are run. And yeah, I mean, it's incredible how great they are given how young they are.
Yeah. And how many games they have to go up against really good teams in that division too to pull out 100 wins is a lot to say, because there's no free wins in the AL East. That's for sure. Yeah.
And they know to shut teams down. I think that's their recipe for success. They can just shut you down in almost every way, whether it's through an opener, which the Tampa Bay Rays sort of coined in recent years, whether it's their terrific bullpen to close out games, their starters to dominate them, and their offense to take care of everything else in between.
Yeah.
This team is terrific. I want to ask you this. Am I being too egregious if I put them at maybe pushing the envelope towards 110 wins? Is that being a little too ambitious? I don't know. Like this roster, and I know I said if they bring in a power bat, they're going to be unstoppable, but like it is really, they're a complete team and they know how to win games. I think we just said that.
I think we got to wait a little.
I don't know. Am I being too egregious with the 110?
I don't even know if 110 wins is possible in the AL East. Like if they were an NL Central team and you said 110 wins, I would have been, no doubt. But I think right now I have their ceiling at around like 105, 106 is just because it's a way too competitive a division, I think, to be running the tables that much, even though they are going to be dominant.
Yeah. And also like, you're always going to have those days and games where like, it doesn't go your way and you lose games that you're expected to win. And look, I mean, I think like the Dodgers were like 110 win team one year, but that was just like they just were like unstoppable. They got hot and they stayed hot.
Mhm.
If that happens with Tampa, which it more than likely can, but the Dodgers are also in a worse division,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
considerably worse. So that's why it was a lot easier for them. They're going up against the Rockies and Padres, and the Tampa Bay Rays are in a very, very, very competitive division.
It's going to be a sad day for the rest of the AL East teams if the Rays hit 110 wins.
If
That
they
is,
do,
but at
if they
least
hit
it
100,
can be a benchmark, like not a benchmark, but rather like a bar
a
to sort
goal.
of strive for.
Yeah.
Because
yeah,
Yeah.
I think they're capable of doing it. It's just a matter of how many wins can you get on those off nights where nothing's really going your way. I think it's
Yeah.
possible, but like we've seen so many years in the AL East, kind of unlikely. It's an anomaly. Your team is
Yeah.
going far if you're getting.
If you've got
110.
4 teams in the division that are going to finish with 90 wins, to have an 110 team in that division is a tall order. But
Yeah,
if
for
anyone can
sure.
do it, it's the Tampa Bay Rays. That's for
100%.
sure. Yeah. As far as MVP goes, I have a guy, not your traditional name that you think of when you think of the Rays, but I go Brandon Lau in this situation. I think he's been very solid over the last couple of years. I think the power numbers have been, exceptional for a team that's been a lot of, it's a lot of platoon players. And Brandon Lau is one of those rare players that gets in the game every day and is going to give you solid defense at second base and is liable to send one out of the park every once in a while too. And when he's hot, he is the offensive engine of this team. The runs are scored through Brandon Lau in that 2-3 spot, and he's my pick for MVP. Mario, what do you think about the Rays MVP this year?
I love the Brandon Lau pick. He's a sick ball player. I love the no batting gloves look when he's stepping up into the dish. That is just reeks confidence from your, exactly. Reeks confidence in your lineup as a guy. Personally, and I'm really excited to see this kid play, Wander Franco. I got him as the MVP because I want to see him, and I think he can. Evan, don't shake your head. He's a terrific talent.
I put Wander Franco. So now I got to think of someone else.
Oh, that's going to be boring now. No.
This is why we should share notes.
Yeah.
No, Wander Franco is a terrific talent. His bat is lethal. He can do it. He could pick him up and throw him down. I believe he can steal a couple bags, if I'm not mistaken. He's got some speed with him. He's one of the perfect packages. They sign him for long term. I think that deal has the potential to look like an absolute steal in like the long run if he's going to become the player that he's expected to be.
Oh yeah.
But that offensive prowess is terrific. His defensive game, I think I need to see a little bit more, but what I've seen, he's making star-studded plays all across the lineup. He's got some great range. He's just a complete package, and I think he's able to put up an MVP season for the Tampa Bay Rays. Not MVP in the league. That's a little too much down the road, but for the Rays, if you're looking at a team, this guy can make some noise for you.
For sure. And I had not Randy Rosa. I had Wander Franco, but I'll give a different name. I'm going to say Mike Zunino. He had a great year last year.
He is interesting.
33 home runs, 62 RBIs. And if you can get that production from your catcher, it just allows the entire rest of the offense to flow so beautifully. I mean, you see the top catchers in the MLB, guys like JT Realmuto, even like Will Smith, they are able to hit home runs and provide offense on their own. And I think the fact that Mike Zunino was able to do that last year just allows for everything just to flow more fluidly.
He's an underrated catcher too.
Mike Zunino, definitely one of the most underrated catchers in baseball. Coming in as the replacement for the season that Travis d'Arnaud had was, nobody thought he was going to live up to that. And, you could argue that Zunino, if you look at the traditional stats and you're somebody who cares about batting average and all that stuff, obviously you're going to find ways to, be disappointed in his production. But, if you're a Tampa Bay Rays fan or you're somebody that, is lives by the analytics or whatever, you absolutely have to treat Mike Zunino as one of the premier catchers in this league. And
I would say that the questioning was fair though, because this was the first time he's played over 100 games in the last 3 years. The last time was in 2018 with Seattle. So, I do think it's the criticism might be valid.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
Just because
I was a doubter myself. I'm going to say it. I didn't think it would work either, but I was proven wrong.
I didn't even realize, I checked his stats once and I was like, what the fuck? Like when I saw he had already hit 30 home runs, because I remember when the Dodgers played the Rays in the World Series, this dude was a strikeout machine. You just knew strike three was coming. And then I look at his stats and he had 25 home runs. And I was like, what the hell, man?
Yeah.
And no one's talking about him.
It's sad that these catchers like this they're not coming out from the younger guys anymore. It's more just you're a catcher, you're meant to hit power all the way, striking out a lot, like a Gary Sanchez type of model. I think that's what a lot of people are going or scouts are trending towards, just because you have that high ceiling on the offense, and then the defense is always something that scouts believe and teams believe. Oh, we can just work on this and work on this. It's so much easier to work on defensive stuff than bringing up natural offense that not many players have. I strongly disagree, and I've played the game long enough. I know that if you got a catcher that can call games very well, starting pitchers like Garrett Cole want to play with you, and you can have offensive skill sets, not shattering records and all that, but maybe between a 260 to 280, 290 batting average, and you're popping some over the fence a couple times. I think that's the way the catcher should go. I think defense is just way too undermined, and Mike Zunino brings the perfect package for the Rays, and he's just a benchmark of a catcher to live up to if you're a younger prospect coming up the system.
I think especially if you want to talk about young catchers that are being brought up right, you look at Mike Zunino's backup, Francisco Mejia, who's a guy that Evan's seen a little bit in San Diego, but yeah, he's a guy that, like you said, is liable to hit a home run. I think, my mind goes to that grand slam that he hit against the Jays last year, but he's a guy that's also going to play you some quality defense. And, Tampa Bay is going to make sure that, he's going to lead the way for future catchers. And he might end up being that benchmark for, how to bring a catcher into the league properly if you wanted to hit and play defense and be one of the best players on your team. Yeah. Cy Young right now, there's no real obvious pick. A few injuries are in this Rays rotation right now, and they've thinned out obviously from the big name Rays rotation that we've seen in years past. But I think Shane Baz is a young guy who's got the potential to have a really great season. We saw him a few starts last year, a few appearances. I think maybe once in an opener role as well, but the guy throws heat. And, he's got a live arm, and for a young guy, that's exactly what you want to see. If he can, stay healthy for a full season, I'm excited to see what he brings to this Rays rotation, because, the success is going to come from somebody. It's going to come from the whole team, but I think Shane Baz has the potential to lead the way. Evan, where are you thinking for this Rays rotation?
I'll say a different name because I did have Shane Baz. I'll go Corey Kluber. I just think I don't remember if he had a great year last year. I remember it was like a little shaky, if I'm not mistaken, but I just think like the Rays pitching staff is just exponential, and I think he could definitely be their team's ace.
And there's not the one thing that I think it's something that you love from the Tampa Bay Rays, which makes it so hard for this kind of segment to pick a Cy Young, is that they're all great pitchers, or not even great. They're just, I don't want to think mediocre is the wrong word, but they're just like an average pitcher that gets things done. And like, there's no star-studded guy that's just highlighted in your roster card here for the starting pitcher position. And I now know that the shoe's on the other foot because Evan took the guy I wanted in Kluber. You took Baz. I'm going to go, and it's not really anything special. Shane McClanahan. I think he's just like, he puts up the wins. I think he's projected to put up, I think 15 wins, 11 wins, between that range. He's just a guy who can produce. I don't know. They have a full roster of guys who could produce. You guys took the other two that I wanted to go with. I think Shane McClanahan could also produce. He could strike guys out. He has a low strikeout to walk differential. It's not like he's going to be the team Cy Young, but he's definitely could be in the mix, just like these guys are as well. That's what makes the Tampa Bay Rays so hard to judge in this segment. There's no wrong answer, but there's no clear cut right one.
McClanahan, a guy too who they like to bring in after the opener, so it'll be interesting to see how that situation affects his if he thrives in that position, or some starters hate that, right, warming up in the second inning and then having to come out and start in the third. So we'll see how McClanahan can handle that sort of situation. As far as make or break goes, I've got Kevin Kiermaier. I know it's no secret that the Rays are trying to, they're debating whether or not it's time to move on from him. He's played exceptional defense for what feels like the last decade in center field in Tampa Bay, but there's some young outfielders that are emerging and some guys that need playing time, and Kiermaier just has never been able to get it done with the bat. So, it'll probably be a big season to see whether or not it's if Kiermaier can hit, he might stay on the roster, but if not, then you'll definitely be able to get a little bit of value from him and, see some more from your younger players for sure. Mario, who are you thinking as a make or break guy for the Rays this year?
Yeah, I had KK. His outfielding glove is terrific. He's won so many Gold Gloves. He's obviously known in Tampa Bay and around the league for his defense. It's just a matter of what he's going to do at the dish. That's a huge question mark, and I think he's running out of answers as the years go by. He's never been able to get it done whatsoever. Never putting up any crazy seasons. I don't got a stat line in front of me, but what I've been seeing, because I've been following the Jays and the AL East so prominently, Kevin Kiermaier is never a guy who steps in the box and frightens me. He had a pretty garbage really harsh, but a pretty poor playoff showing last year as well against the Boston Red Sox. when they got eliminated. So I think I need to see a lot from him. It's going to be a make or break year for him. I can maybe come back with you with another one when you go to Evan, but no, Kevin Kiermaier is the guy that I got, who's I think the standout to make or break the year.
Sure. Yeah. Evan, you got anything different or?
Yeah, I have someone different. I have G-Man Choi. I
Okay.
just,
Interesting.
look, a first baseman, I think we're spoiled with the fact that first basemans are just like your elite talent. And just G-Man Choi has not shown that. At least last year he didn't. I think he had like 13 home runs, 40 RBIs, like nothing great. And I just think the Tampa Bay Rays, and you're assessing kind of what's your the Charlie horse that's holding you back. I definitely think you got to look at G-Man Choi. Like his defense is incredible. I've never seen someone that big be able to do the splits, but so credit to him. But I think other than that, like you just got to look at offensive power, and it's just something that G-Man Choi just has not provided. And I don't even think it was just only last year. I think like just he hasn't really. He comes up sometimes in big moments, but more times than not, like you're just not hearing his name. Yeah, like 229 batting average last year, 11 home runs, 45 RBIs. Like that's not good from a first baseman or just a guy that you're hoping to get some sort of power
Yeah,
from.
G-Man, a guy who was trying to increase his value by becoming a switch hitter, and that worked for about one at bat against the Jays.
Yeah.
Just
He
did
got
not.
an MLB card on it too. And
Yeah, he
Yeah, like
um,
just
hit a home run from the wrong side of the plate, and then I don't think he did much after that. So G-Man is a
yeah,
guy who, yeah,
that
definitely.
is a flex though. You could
Yeah, it
flex
is.
that
Oh
on a
yeah,
lot
no,
of
yeah,
players.
you
for
get to
sure.
own that forever. That's for sure.
Yeah.
As far as positioning goes, I have the Rays, somewhere in between stay and buy. Like, obviously they need to add that power bat, but I don't think you can go wrong if you just keep working your Moneyball magic and you keep doing it the Tampa Bay Rays way, because it's gonna work and it has worked. So yeah. I don't know where you guys sit on that, but
Pretty similar. I mean,
Yeah.
I mentioned off the top you would like to bring in that power bat again, Yanni
Yeah.
Diaz. I'm gonna say his name so much just because, and I feel bad. I kind of hated him a lot. He's the guy who gets the whipping stick for me. But no, he's if you can upgrade from him, terrific. If not, you're still gonna be a lethal team. It's just a matter of how far you want to push, how far you want to spend, how much capital you want to give up. Because even if you don't, you're still in a terrific spot for the Tampa Bay Rays. So just up to what they want to do. You're not gonna really be broken if you don't do anything.
Yeah, I just said buy conservatively. Like you don't need to make a monster deal if you're the Tampa
Yeah.
Bay Rays, but you still just want to like bring in. I mean, too much depth is never a concern.
That's for sure. That's for sure. You definitely can't go wrong. All right. And rounding out our fifth team here, we've got the Toronto Blue Jays, my hometown team. As far as off-season grades go, I have them at a B. You've met your rotation needs. You lost Ray, but you replaced him with Gosman. You've got to add an infielder and you've got to get bullpen pieces, whether that's through trade or free agency. But
Said
adding
Matt
an infielder,
Chapman last show.
yeah, adding an infielder here is going to be key to a successful offseason because right now you've got both Santiago Espinal and Kevin Biggio in the infield right now. And, you had a great season from Espinal last year, and a down season from Biggio, but you'd imagine that those are pretty much going to average out. And so it might be difficult to replace the production of Marcus Semien without adding a quality infielder. I'm not saying you have to go get, an MVP candidate, but I have him at a B right now. Mario, let's go to the other Canadian here. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, B is a fair
Oh,
grade.
sorry, my bad.
Which I think Evan's Canadian.
Yeah, he is
yeah.
Canadian. I
Yeah.
spaced there for a second.
I think Mateo's referring to the better Canadian.
Yeah.
Oh
My
yeah,
No,
the homebred one.
Yeah,
Hey.
exactly, the homebred one. No, the Jays, I gotta agree with you. A B is very fair. The rotation is going to be looking. I'm very interested to see how it does. I think it's looking pretty nice. I think it's going to do pretty good things for Toronto. It's just a matter of if they can get it done. And I think that's always the case when you're bringing in a couple arms in the rotation. You lose them as well. Again, the infield is the biggest response that they need, besides, of course, the bullpen. If you can get some bullpen arms, and it's not like we mentioned last show, and we were talking extensively about the Jays, just because all the bullpen arms that are on the block right now, you don't necessarily need the guy who can close out the games. It's more so a guy who can get you in the 7th, 8th inning, 6th inning to get you to that 9th inning. And you can maybe throw in guys like Merriweather, Romano. There's so many other pieces that have shown last year in glimpses that can shut down games. So great grade for the Jays. They still have the capability to do a little bit more. And if they get a guy like you can get Canelli Jansen if you want, and then you have your set closer. It's just a matter of what you want to do with those other guys. So they have a lot of things to play with, and they can definitely push that grade up. There's definitely no ceiling for what this Jays team can do in the offseason.
Yeah, Evan, where do you sit
Yeah.
with that? Yeah.
I personally think the the Blue Jays need to get Kenley Jansen. Just because, like, when I'm watching these Jays games and they bring in, I mean, like, I think Romano's terrific. I actually think he was kind of underrated just because he's playing on a Toronto team that kind of struggled throughout the year at the beginning, when they were in Buffalo and just moving around constantly, but definitely showed spurts. But you can't pitch him every day, which is the issue that the Blue Jays had, is that when Romano wasn't closing out games, they were kind of screwed. And I think Kenley Jansen's an absolute must for this team, and take it from someone who's watched him for the past 10 years. Like, although he does blow saves from time to time, like that's every closer. If you notice, like not every closer is going to go 45 for 45 or 35 for 35. Like there's definitely going to be games. There were games where Kenley Jansen looked lights out, and there were games where he was throwing 9 pitches in a save. Like I went to one game when he threw 6 pitches in a save, and that's just what the Blue Jays need. And Mary say, wow, like his pitches are great. I gave them a B for now. I definitely think they have the capabilities of going up to an A. If we want to get into record, I had the record at 95 and 67 with the ceiling at 98 and 64. I definitely think they'll be the second place team. And I think they could get that first wild card for sure. Host a wild card game in Toronto would be awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I had their record at too. I feel like Mario's probably in the same range there, but yeah, as well. As far as team MVP goes, I mean, it's no surprise, a guy who could have been the league MVP last year. I've got Vladdy Guerrero. You know what you're going to get out of him now. Like this is a guy that is, a bona fide top 5 hitter in the league, if not better than that. Up there with the likes of Trout and Soto. He's going to make some noise on the offensive side of the plate. And, whether you're not going to get a lot from him defensively, he's going to play your first base, and he's going to absolutely mash and be in Triple Crown contention for the next decade. So, yeah, I mean, it's hard to imagine anybody else as the MVP, but if you guys have any other names you want to throw out there.
I got Vladdy. I just really want to see him focus more on the defense. I know it's not his style. I know he's going to be a first baseman, really got to focus on it, but I think, and there's been a lot of situations where you need a play made at first base, and unfortunately it goes right through him. And if you can get that down, this guy is it's just all about adding for him. He's got everything that he needs. As long as you can continuously add and improve yourselves. I know he's been working out over the past couple of years after that huge thing that I never believed came out, that he never works out. That is ridiculous for a guy that stature.
Definitely looked like it.
It definitely looked like it. But no, once he starts getting a little bit more fit, a little bit more agile at the position, I'm glad they moved him from third to first, because he's definitely more suited for that spot there. So no, I just want to see him improve a little bit more. And on the bat, because you know what you're getting from there. You mentioned Triple Crown contention for the next couple of seasons. I think that's obvious. He's going to be a terrific talent on the offensive side, just like this Jays team is. But if you can get on the defensive side and improve there, man, there's no stopping you. And you have a clear case to make, not just your team MVP, which is going to be obvious, but you're making a strong case for the league MVP, not just with your offensive numbers.
And that move from third to first too, allowing him to, stop focusing so much on his defense too, and actually be able to commit to, his offensive game, and just even in the dugout, not having to worry about defense or having to worry about errors, as, a guy who's played before as well as me, right? How much, when you make an error, how much that lingers in your head kind of thing, right? It's not something
so
that you
much
shake.
pressure.
It's not something you let go. And then you go up to your next at bat, and then you're like, okay, I got to make up for it now. Right. So allowing him to go to first base where, he's going to make less errors, it frees him up offensively. It frees his mind up as well as a mental game as much as it is a physical game. And, we've seen what great things that's allowed him to do at the plate. Evan, I don't know if you want to speak on Vladdy a little bit or.
No, I mean, I was actually just going to move to like the Cy Young, because I feel consensus MVP is going to be Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And it better be, if this Blue Jays team wants to get to that 98 win mark. If it's not Vladdy, then it's a little concerning. Or it could be a great thing that they're competing neck and neck with some. True. But for me, my Cy Young is going to be Kevin Gausman, just because I want to give, I saw you had Jose Barrios. I just wanted to give a different light to it. I think Kevin Gausman, or I know Kevin Gausman is going to be great. I mean, I saw him kill my Dodgers numerous times. The splitter is absolutely filth. It just, the way that it sinks at the last second. I mean, it looks like a low fastball that then just gets you golfing. And I just think, especially in games against the Yankees, where the only way they really score runs is by the home run, I think definitely getting them to bite on pitches is going to slow their momentum down. I'm just thinking playoff long term. Even with Tampa Bay, it might be a little bit difficult just because those guys are just so disciplined at the plate. But I just think Kevin Gausman, and given what Robbie Ray did in Toronto, I'm expecting a mirrored season from Gausman.
Yeah, as you said, I have Barrios there. Obviously, I had the pleasure of actually going to a couple games at the Rogers Center after they came home, and all of them ended up being Barrios starts.
Oh,
Wow.
you
And
lucky SOB. I had to see that Ryu bitch.
oh god, but
Tell me how you really feel.
all of them ended up being Barrios starts, and I did get an opportunity once to see him directly from behind the plate, and that curveball is the nastiest pitch I've ever seen with my own two
Oh
eyes.
my God.
Like
It is disgusting.
it is ridiculous. I mean, coming off a huge extension, he's able to, play a little more freely. He's got a little bit of security there. He's got a chance to try things a little bit. I think we're going to have a great season from Jose Barrios this year. I would not be surprised if he ends up out competing Gosman to be that number one guy in the rotation. Mario, I don't know where you're
Oh, I
headed
just
at with
wanted
this.
to interject.
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess I can say something similar to what you were saying about Barrios. I went
Yeah.
to 5 Dodger
Yeah,
games
exactly.
and 4 of them were Bueller. So
There you go.
I've seen Bueller pitch way too many times. The guy
It's a treat though.
sucks.
It's
He
a treat
sucks.
though. Bueller sucks, really?
Yeah, no.
Oh, that might be a discussion for a different day.
I'm kidding. I'm joking.
Alrighty. I figured as much. Mario, I don't know where your head's at with the Cy Young, but
Yeah, you guys named the 1-2, the guys who are going to go back to back, and it's going to be a really lethal force. They're going to run the starting position of pitching is going to run through those two players. 1A, 1B. One of them is going to be their team Cy Young. It's a matter of who stays healthy. I'm so glad that they signed Barrios with that contract. If not, a lot of Jays fans, including I would say you as well, Mateo, would be pretty unhappy considering they give up some decent capital, like we mentioned last week. But I just want to ask this question, maybe let it linger a little bit to end the show off. But does Alex Manoah, he's a terrific young talent. He's a flamethrower. He can get just about everything done. And do you see him putting up not Robbie Ray numbers, but around that, where he's not winning the Cy Young, but he's getting he's pulling a lot of weight for this Jays team? Can he contend for that one spot on the team? Because he showed a lot of good signs last year. This is a question. I'm not saying he's going to.
I just want to hear your thoughts. Good signs. I thought there were way too many games where he was walking way too many batters. So, because I remember even games against like Tampa, I remember he had like 6 strikeouts, but 6 walks as well. So, I don't know if he can do what Robbie Ray did. I think that was just a generation, like just a Cinderella season where Robbie Ray was just absolutely electric. I definitely think Alek Manoah is a very, very solid number 3. I definitely think he's better than a lot of teams' number 2s, but I don't think he can replicate or even maybe come close to what Robbie Ray did. It just, the walk total is way too high.
Yeah. And it's interesting just because we were talking about last week, Robbie Ray's control was always off the charts, always finding ways to walk guys. And then, we're going with Manoah here. It's totally different.
Yeah.
And it's totally valid. It's going to be a really tough sledding for him to push that number 1. I'm interested to see what you say, Mateo. Obviously, you've watched him a lot more than me.
I would say absolutely. I'm really high on a guy like Manoah. I know the walks were a problem last year. And, obviously the other big red flag with him was, controlling his temper. A very, very similar situation as a rookie Marcus Stroman, honestly. But a guy who really
Marcus Stroman.
Or a current Marcus Stroman, but a guy who really plays, with his heart on his sleeve, and he's gonna, get ejected for what he believes is right against the Orioles a few times a year. But that guy's 2-seamer is electric. I mean, the way it barrels in on batters it's unhittable at times. And if he's going with his slider coming the other way, it's 2 pitches that he tunnels them perfectly, and they're going in complete opposite directions. Hitters have no chance. So if he can figure that 2-seamer out and find a way to bear it in on some batters, and then come off the plate with that slider reliably and not leave that slider over the heart of the plate or not have that 2-seamer flatten out on him, he's going to have an exceptional year, and he's going to be right up there with Barrios and Gosman for sure.
Yeah, I just I'm not. It's not that I'm like dissing Alek Manoah.
No, not by any means.
Like I just don't like Robbie Ray won the Cy Young because of just how dominant and he struck out. Like there were so many games where Robbie Ray had 10 Ks and 1 walk or no walks. Like I just don't think Manoah can really replicate that. I definitely think he'll win more games than he loses. He'll definitely be a very, very solid number 3. And going into a postseason facing Gosman, Barrios, and Manoah, that's very terrifying.
Yep. And we know what the difference was between Cy Young Robbie Ray and regular Robbie Ray. It was the walks as well, right? So if Manoah can iron that out,
that's what I'm saying.
There's a shot.
I'm saying that now, but I guarantee you, in 6 months from now,
we will see. I'm hoping for the best.
And I mean, he has the terrific pitching coach to do it, Pete Walker. That guy works wonders with his pitching staff. So interesting to see how that is. I have one more thing. Jays
Okay.
fans. I think this is one that you might get a kick out of. And did it just slip my memory? Oh, I think it might have just slipped my memory. Oh, shoot. Okay,
Oh
try
man.
wrapping it up.
Fired.
It was a
Alrighty.
good discussion we were gonna have. Keep
Oh
going.
Can
man.
I
Just
give
keep going.
my? Where are we going to do the make
Do you
or
want
break?
do you want to do a make or break? Yeah, let's do a
I
make or
do
break
because
first.
Let's go make or break.
I have a
Okay.
very hot take for make or break that
Okay.
I
think
hope
I
you
know it.
guys
I
don't.
think
I
I
hope you
know
guys don't get mad at me.
Okay.
Okay, so I have two. I have one for one reason, and the second one is just in general. I think he needs to. Okay, so
Okay.
my make and break my make or break for the first one is Bo Bichette, and I'll tell you
Oh,
why I say Bo
Wow.
Bichette.
hot take.
Obviously, the offense is there, but defensively, he's one of the worst infielders in the MLB. Like you just look, he's constantly leading the league in errors, and none of them are like it's just unforced errors. Like it's not like there's a competition between the guy getting to first or not. Like it's just errors that shouldn't be happening, and it's just the reason why an extra run or two is scored against the Blue Jays, and that's why like Bo Bichette is just it's not a category you want to lead in. And if you want to be a competitive team, you need to make sure that your shortstop, the main guy that's like managing that off or that defense, I'm sorry, is able to control himself as well. We're seeing that with New York and how Gio Urshela wasn't able to handle the ball. And Bo Bichette for me is just that defensively. Overall, it's Kevin Biggio. Is he going to be able to? Obviously, no one can fill Marcus Simeon's shoes, but if you can at least do half of it, I think the Blue Jays are very suitable for that 98 win ceiling. Obviously, the injuries have been derailing him last year, but he came up with that hype with Bichette and Vladdy when they were down in Buffalo in AAA, and we've seen what Bo and Vladdy have done, but we just haven't seen Cavan yet, really.
Yeah, that was your other. Kevin was your other make or
Yeah,
break
so
kind of guy.
Cavan
Yeah,
was like the main guy. Bo Bichette,
totally.
just for his defense, because the offense is great, but you need to be a complete player in the MLB.
Yeah, I feel that as well. I have two different picks, obviously, for my make or break. I've got Randall Grichuk as a guy who, he's a guy who has great half seasons,
Yeah.
but he has
Yeah.
yet to have a great full season.
Yeah.
And in an outfield as crowded as the Jays one is right now, with guys like Springer, you've got Teoscar, you've got Gurriel in there as well, and one of them is obviously going to be in your DH spot, but you need lefty bats in this Jays lineup, and the best way to get lefty bats is to have them in the outfield, obviously. And so Randall Grichuk is a guy that may be taking a spot away from a lefty bat like a Corey Dickerson, right? And so if he can't put together a full season, I think it may be time to look at what you can get in a deal for a guy like Randall Grichuk. And then the other guy who I think it's a make or break year for is Charlie Montoyo. I think, he's had a lot of excuses, obviously, to rely on in the past couple of years with the Jays, not being able to play at home in the shortened season and moving around, whatever it is, Tampa Bay, Buffalo. But I think he's a guy that, if the Jays don't make the playoffs next year, he's going to have to answer a lot of questions for why this team can't get to that point. And, I'm not saying, put his head on a stake or anything right now, but I'm saying he hasn't made the greatest decisions. Granted, he hasn't had a lot of tools to work with in the bullpen, but this is a no excuses year. If the Jays don't come through this year, Charlie Montoya's job is probably going to be at risk. I know he's adored by management, and, the players like him too, but at some point, if you're not winning, you're going to have to answer for that, obviously.
And just to
Sure.
credit your Montoya point, it's just the way he deals with his pitching staff and the way he uses those guys. Like those, once it gets to the 6th, 7th inning, you're sort of like, oh man, what's Montoya going to do? What's he cooking up? What are we going to see now? And usually it's complete the other way. It throws you off completely. And I think he just has to secure it a little bit more. And again, bullpen pieces coming in can definitely help him out.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you have a good bullpen, it makes your choices a lot easier to go with. And last year, I don't think they were equipped to do that. So maybe
not at all.
I don't think it was all on his fault, but still, again, he did use those guys in situations where he wasn't really not supposed to, but he really shouldn't. And there was other options available knocking at the door. Maybe this year is going to be different. Again, that all depends on the offseason. The one guy I have personally for me, and I'll just go to my one player, and you guys kind of took it out of my mouth, but Kevin Biggio, he's the only Jays player that I have a jersey of, just because I love the way he love the way he plays. I love his offensive side of things when he's producing. That's the big one. When is
Yeah.
he going to produce? He had that one year, and it was the year I bought his jersey. I believe it was his rookie season, or maybe the shortly after one is this following season. One of the years he put up terrific numbers. He was always just a versatile guy at the plate. He could hit it. He could spray it all over the field. He can get you the home runs when you wanted to. He wasn't the crazy offensive guy that the Jays were bringing up. He was just that one guy who was, yeah, you could do just about everything on the plate. And then
And the walks, he got on base.
and the walks, the
Yeah.
on base percentage was terrific. He can work counts. Probably still is. I'm going to give him
Yeah.
that credit. Still probably one of the better guys who could work counts on this team, and even in the league, if you want to put it that way. But I just got to see a little bit more than just him working counts and walking bags, because I need to see a lot more production on the offensive side of things. His defense has always been good. He's a versatile talent, which is never a bad thing for any team by any means. So I just want to see a little bit more from Kevin Biggio. I think he's going to make or break this team. Not to say that if he does bad, he's done, but he's definitely going to be on a little bit of thinner ice than he's been, because it's starting to go a little bit down. Let's see if you can pick it up, Kevin. I really want to see it.
Definitely.
Mm.
I don't know if Mari, that other point came to mind, or
It did.
Yeah.
What's I had two. It's up to you which one you want to tackle here.
Okay.
Do we see George Springer play over 60% of the season with injuries?
Yeah,
That's the
I
big
definitely think so. I definitely think so. I think, the days of Springer being injured are in the past. I know he's a trooper. He tried to play through them, but, may not have been the smartest thing, might have extended, or prolonged some of, his symptoms and how long he needed to be out for. But I think, yeah, you can rely on a healthy George Springer right now. He wants to be on the field just as much as any of the other guys. And, he's definitely going to take all the care this offseason to make sure that it's behind him and that he can, contribute at the level that we're used to seeing George Springer produce at.
Davis, what about you? Anything on George Springer playing over 60%?
I hope.
Go. You hope?
I hope.
He does too.
I mean, is there? I hope he can. If he doesn't, it just, you look at that contract and you're like, damn.
Yeah.
Like, we just paid him all this money and he can't even play 3/4 of a season.
And the Jays are worth pulling their weight when he's not there. We've seen it so much last year. So it's not really that's something that concerns me if he's not there. But again, you're paying that money. That's the one.
Oh, yeah.
Dollars and
Yeah,
cents.
you
You're
need him
going to
in the
want him
lineup,
in the lineup.
especially
Not to say that you
with
can't
Semien
get
going.
by, but you can
Yeah.
definitely make a push and a decent push at that
Mhm.
if he's there. And my second question is it's a pretty basic one. Yes or no? Do you think it's going to happen? If the Jays choose to maybe bring in an infielder, focus on that need rather than the bullpen, is Nate Pearson your closer on opening day and for the foreseeable future?
Oh, God.
No, Nate Pearson
No.
is not my closer. Nate Pearson, I think, to me, profiles as more of like a 6, 7, 8 kind of guy, a guy who's going to come in, who's going to give you 2 innings before Romano. I mean, in a bullpen that's obviously starved for lefties, the one remedy for that is, guys who can go out there and give you multiple innings, can give you multiple outs, can bridge innings for you. And I think that's probably going to be your Nate Pearson, a guy who's going to give you a little bit of length, but not necessarily a long reliever in the traditional sense.
Yeah, and I think you're bang on. A lot of people and a lot of Jasons that I talk to, more of the guys who aren't really looking too much into it, they're like, Nate Pearson, closer. Come on, I want to see him whip all those fastballs by him. But when you look at the, not just the analytics, but when you look really more into what he's going to be bringing, what he's been bringing, coming up with the Jays, he's not really the suitable option. I'm totally with you, Mateo. It was just a question sort of up on my mind. And a lot of people are wondering as well. Just the average Jays fan around, but no, I think he's definitely suited for that role rather than just a closing one. When they got a couple closers that have been proven to get it done. And then
Jordan Romano is one of the best closers in the league. Like, I will die on that sword. He's done nothing to warrant taking the role away from him. And a guy like Pearson is just better suited for different opportunities anyway. So it works out. Yeah.
Evan, what about you? I don't think you have him closing out games either. No.
I would do Kenley Jansen. Yeah. I seriously think if he's going to go somewhere where he still wants to compete, because I love Philly, but I just don't think that they're I don't know. Their team is always great, but you just never see the wins. And I just think
telling me.
Yeah, I just think, because here, what I had was that Philly was going to go after Craig Kimbrell because they missed out on him at the deadline. It doesn't look like Chicago's going to keep him because they already have Liam Hendricks, and it didn't even work out in Chicago. Craig Kimbrell was a horrid disaster. So I had Philly with Kimbrell and Jansen going to another competitive team in Toronto.
Makes sense. And I mean, if we're going to talk to Phillies just very briefly, it's if he goes to the Phillies, I think they're going to mismanage him, misuse him. They typically do that with their closers. So
are you talking about Jansen or
Kimbrell? It really doesn't matter. I've seen this. I've been down this road too many times.
Yeah, it's just that's where I think is and I hope Jansen leaves just for the sake of Blake Trinan is disgusting and should not be in the 8th inning. He should be in the 9th inning.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll definitely hit the NL East at some point as well, and we'll be able to talk about that Phillies more in depth. But I think that pretty much brings us to the end of our discussion about the AL East. I mean,
Sure.
great conversation. Obviously, there's some stuff still up in the air, some questions that aren't answered yet with free agency. But I hope our predictions hold, honestly, because the Jays finishing at a second in the division and a wild card spot is exactly what I want to see, and I'm sure is what a lot of Jays fans want to see as well out there. But yeah, great discussion here, boys. Awesome talk again, and we'll see you in the next episode of Breaking News Bears. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.